Hello, everybody. I hope that you are slightly refreshed and ready for our next session. So I think by now that you all know that the spring conference highlights the best speakers from the SAPICS annual conference. So you really have access to the creme de la creme, as they say. We are joined by Jeremy Basckin, who is the Managing Director of New Ways in the UK. So Jeremy's topic is going to be SOS for supply chains, a case studies in the generation, supply chain planning and operations in responding to our new normal. So when all the saga around the riots and all those sort of things came about, Jeremy was instrumental in working alongside the transit, rail, ports, because obviously everything went a little bit pear-shaped there, and developed a very, very, I'm going to say interesting, effective dashboard with kind of real-time information. So people had some better idea of what was going on. This has grown in leaps and bounds over the last couple of months and has really grown in momentum. So there are obviously some other case studies that Jeremy's going to share with you this afternoon. So we are really pleased to have you, Jeremy. Thank you for your time. Please come up here and share your presentation with the audience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the introduction, Tanya, and great to be back at SAPICS. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Why won't it allow me to share entire screen? I need to share a window.
Technology is against us. It's either with us or against us.
Right. Okay, and if I put that into play mode, can you see that?
I can just put it into presenter mode. Yeah.
Yeah, I have got it in present mode, but it won't allow me to share my screen. Let me stop sharing again. It won't allow me to share my entire screen. So as soon as I put it into play mode...
It doesn't want to give us presenter mode.
Yes. Well, I can't share it because unfortunately I only got one screen at the moment.
Okay, that is a struggle that I wouldn't want to endure because technically I'm really challenged. So it would be there we go.
That's not in...
Not in presenter mode.
It's not plenty. Dear. Right. Okay.
So if you're going to struggle to get it into presenter mode,
let me just. Can you see that?
I can see that. I think we can work with that if we can't go to presenter mode.
Let's see if I can do full screen.
Okay, seems like the audience can see it. It's a good start.
Okay, great. Let's just go for it. Full screen mode. There we go. That's hopefully a bit better. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Yes, as Tanya was saying, I've been supporting and working with SAPICS for quite some time now. I've been on a role where held various roles with Unilever. Started my career with Unilever on Maiden Wharf as an engineer and did various roles and eventually headed up the global sales and operations planning across Unilever and implemented what we call the operating framework across 140 countries. I was senior director in supply chain for Johnson & Johnson, vice president for Coca-Cola, and for the last years I've been the managing director of New Ways, where we've been helping business operations and supply chains improve themselves. So today what we wanted to do was to talk about the new VUCA world of operations. What do those business models and how do we need to change? Take you through 3 case studies, one on visibility, synchronization and forecasting, and then leave you with some takeaways. and obviously some questions and answers if we want to. So yes, we've entered our world of VUCA. So what do we call the VUCA world? I'm sure a lot of you have heard about it, but it's about volatility, the rate of change, uncertainty, nothing is clear anymore, complexity. We need to make multiple key decisions across multiple factors. We're not only just looking at making stuff and delivering stuff or sourcing stuff and delivering stuff. We need to take into consideration portfolios. We need to take in consideration the price changes. We need to consideration of all the external factors that are happening, from COVID, from shortage of containers, to Brexit, to a number of other things, and then ambiguity, the lack of clarity. So what we've seen from an operational point of view, when we started off, we really was about driving efficiencies and requirement, management to take that lead. And that's also where what we call sales and operation planning stem from. Sales and operations planning has been around for about 45 years. Effectively, what we're finding is those sales and operations processes that were set up then, yes, we still need to get those foundations in place, but actually we need to take it to the next level if we want to operate. And why we say this, in our new VUCA world, we need to be changing our technologies and our processes. We need to be more innovative, and leadership need to drive these changes. We can't just say what was good 2 years ago or last year is good enough today. And the amount of times over the last year we've been involved with projects that people are implementing what we call old technology. They say, I've got a problem, I need to implement a system, but those systems are already outdated now, and sometimes it's taking them a year to, or even 2 years to implement. And then we've got the people part. So obviously, people make this all happen. But what we need to be is clear about how we set that up, what people's roles and accountabilities are, and also give them the capability. So this is the new world that we need to be in. So the new world says we need new technology. We need new processes. We need new accountabilities and responsibilities, and we need to give our people the right capabilities in order to succeed in today's world. So we talk about what I call the traditional sales and operation planning, which was this middle section over here. This is where we would start off, first of all, with our strategic planning. So our strategic planning would be, what is our product? What do we need to do? What needs to go to market? And we normally look at that for the next 1 to 5 years, and we normally address that maybe once a year or come back maybe even twice a year. We take that strategic plan and we put it into what we say tactical plans. This is what we're going to do for the next 1 to 24 months from a product point of view, from a demand point of view, from a supply point of view, where we see those gaps and choices. And then we make some decisions to get a financial plan, a product plan, a sales plan, or a supply plan. And then we go into the day-to-day or up to 13 weeks execution. But what we're finding is when the rubber hits the road, the execution isn't, going to what our plans were because of our new VUCA world. So what we've always said in the past, well, if we aren't going to plan, we need to create what we call an exception management process so we can feed back and make those decisions. But what we're finding is that feedback feeds back into the next cycle, which is maybe a month or even a month and a half later, depending where you are in your existing cycle, before a decision gets made and comes back. It's too slow for today's world. It doesn't work. And what we're finding is lots and lots of organizations and people are getting flustered when things go wrong. When we have those exceptions, the plans go out of the window. And because we're having more and more exceptions, we need to change the way that we plan. So how do we plan around exceptions? We need to change our process to plan around exceptions. We need to have the visibility to plan around exceptions. So that's why we start moving into what we call decision time. What's become clarity now is the time that you have to make decisions. So as you go across here, your products, this says annually or biannually, we need to look at our segmentation and alignment, but actually we need to prioritize maybe even weekly. We know we can't get raw material or our product stuff. We need to make some decisions around, okay, what am I going to do in its place? Am I going to substitute those products? What does that do to my strategy? So we need to actually be doing it weekly rather than biannually or even monthly. From a demand point of view, the same thing. We do our monthly demand, and we carry on doing monthly demands, looking across the full horizon, saying, this is what it looks like for the next 24 months, because we need to see what our plans are. But in reality we're finding is that our plans aren't going. We need to make adjustments. And when we need to make those adjustments, they need to be reflected across that full horizon. We also, look at our monthly supply and inventory plans and weekly schedules. But also, again, as we're finding we're selling more, selling less, or not getting the raw materials in, we need to make adjustments there and then across the full horizon. And similarly with your financials, you used to have your financial run, but actually you need to make some decisions, even on a weekly basis, about saying, well, I'm not going to make this product. I'm instead going to make something else because I can make more margin, or it's more because of customer prioritization. We do that. And then also your decision making comes in around the monthly decision and operations, which we need to put in place. But also we need to be able to adjust it on a weekly basis against all these exceptions we're starting to see. So what does that come back to? So what we call is, we now implement what we call MPC, Multidimensional Planning and Control. So what we need to be able to do is not just doing linear, because previously we called this linear planning, because we go linearly down it. Actually, we need to take multi-dimensional plans into consideration, and we can't look at one thing anymore. We can't just look at previous history. We need to have a look at temperature, customer, COVID, supply issues, all of those we need to start bringing into our plans. And again, we set up a monthly planning cycle. So we do our monthly, what we call a static plan. This is our static estimate, where we take a snapshot and saying, this is what the next 18 months or 24 months will look like against our product portfolio, our sales forecast, our demand plan, our inventory plan, our supply plan, and our operating plan in units, in COGS, and in revenue. We need to look at all three of those across those. But then we need to be agile enough to say, right, let's see what our active planning is happening, what is weekly happening. Do I need to make any adjustments? And then also we have our daily controls in place. So our sales consumptions, our inventory availability, and our supply order conformance. Are we conforming to those supply orders that effectively made? We need to be monitoring those daily, making weekly adjustments, feeding into the monthly estimates, and possibly making those adjustments if necessary. So that's the new world we're in. So it's becoming quite a rapidly complex a new world that we're in. And therefore, we need to have the processes as outlined over here. We also need to have the technology that drives it. No longer are spreadsheets good enough. No longer are using just some functionality out of an ERP to do a spreadsheet good enough for us anymore. This is becoming pretty complex. And we need to have the right process, the right tools, and the right capabilities in place to respond to that. So enough of our talking about the theoretical world is changing. Let's have a look at some practical examples. So as Tanya was saying, we got involved and tried to help the situation when we had the unrest in KwaZulu-Natal back in June, July last year, because what the lifeblood to a country is the ability to bring goods in and to take things out. And once you stop that, where the majority flows is through our ports. So as soon as our ports shut down, we restrict our lifeblood. So therefore, it was really important to say, how can we get back on our feet as quickly as possible? And in order to do that, we needed the visibility of where the biggest areas are and where we need to focus. So from those particular areas, it was saying, well, actually, there's so many things we don't know what's happening. So effectively, what we did was we put in place what we call a control tower to start giving us the visibility of vessels. How many vessels are out at anchorage? How many vessels are in port? How many vessels are actually on their way that have left various countries, because we know sometimes it's 21 days or 14 days sail time. So you've also got this, what I call this pipeline of vessels coming towards you. Also to understand what trucks you have to actually physically move it, because I don't know if you recall, there was a number of trucks that were torched and trailers that were torched, and therefore all of a sudden you go from having 1,000 trucks to move it down to a capacity of 5 or 800. And even if you do have those reduced capacities, the risk on the drivers as well, wanting to drive those trucks. So it was really understanding actually what did we have available. Similarly with the rails, we needed to understand what that was. We also needed to understand what our storage capacity is, because it's no good offloading off a vessel and you put it into what we call the stack, where everything stacks and then it gets sent out. If you haven't got the trucks or the rails to move it around, because all of a sudden it just builds up and you have a bottleneck there and you can't actually move anything anywhere, and therefore that stops that. So it was really understanding what storage capacity, how quickly could we move it out, but also the more you build into the stack, the harder it is actually to clear it. Because effectively, if you think about it, you take a container off a ship, you put it on the ground. You take another container, you put it on top of it. So that stack builds up. So when a truck comes in, what does it come in to collect, or the rail collect, is not the one at the top of the stack that you've just offloaded. It's the one that you offloaded the very first, which is always at the bottom of the stack. So in order to get to that, they need to be moving to get to the bottom of it, which brings you into what we call this landside capability, about how much capacity we actually have to move that, and then also the water side, which is how quickly we move things off a ship and come that. And as you can see, there's a number of variables. There's inbound demand, there's outbound demand, there's available resources, and obviously there's some decisions that need to be made. And we put in place these, what we call this control tower. If I put that, I'll let it just open up quickly. So as you can see, we have a live control tower. My internet is a little bit slow. Come back to that whilst it opens. And what effectively we found was that from that control tower, we were able to identify where those issues were. And as you can see, stack occupancy was a big issue. We weren't able to move stuff out, and therefore it started building up. So it was an external, but also internal availability of landside movements. We also found that the stage and gate times, that's the time you come into the port and you come out of the port. We found those were also issues, and there was a number of drivers behind that, and similar with the transport move. So through these elements over here, we're able to identify the three big issues where we needed to focus our resources on. And here you can see, let's not say that. Here you can see the live, if you go into any week as an example, you can see Durban, Pier 1, Pier 2, Bulk, Cape Town, NCT, Richards Bay, effectively. And here you can start seeing, giving you visibility of how many, planned waterside movements, how many key moves, container moves, your stock occupancy, so you can see if you're going to start getting issues, your stage and gate time, your truck moves, your rail moves, various things from this dashboard. You can start getting that visibility and make decisions rather than say, the port's stuck, we've got a problem and we don't know where to turn to. So all of a sudden, this gives us our visibility of where to turn to. So if we move, that gives you an example of how you use visibility and how you use dashboards to help you start driving some of those decisions. But people are, saying, well, that's very easy in a port thing. But what happens in my business if, for instance, I'm a consumer business? How do I improve things? So another example is, how do we synchronize across your business? So this was a global consumer goods, which had a portfolio driving high inventory, and also had poor service. And the issues was high level of inventory, low level of service, poor forecast performance, running the operations on spreadsheets. So one of these things that we find is that because you are dealing with so many what we call variables, where do you start planning? Where do you start executing? So what we first of all did is we synchronized the information that you had inside of your ERP system for speedy daily decisions, so you could see exactly how many orders did I receive from customers, how many purchase orders did I put with suppliers, how many production orders did I create to produce goods, how much inventory am I holding. That all sits inside your ERP system or in various other locations. But what we did is we brought all that information into one place. But there's no good having this information and just looking at it. What we also did was put in a process of saying, right, how are we going to take that information so we can use it for monthly decisions, weekly decisions, and daily decisions, and how each part of that information feeds into it. We also defined how we're going to create the forecast. So who is going to be responsible? Because one of the biggest issues we find with forecasts, and we'll talk about this in another example, is who owns your demand forecast? Is that the demand planner who's doing some statistical analysis? Or is that the commercial organization or the sales organization? And what we find in lots of places, it becomes very blurred, because if the demand planner is saying this is how much I'm going to sell, the salesperson turns around and says, well, that's not my forecast because I think I'm going to sell something else. That's the demand planners or the supply chain's forecast. So therefore, we need to be very clear about how we build people's capabilities together to come into the same level of forecasting. And then implementing the daily updates. So now you're getting lots of information. You're getting sales information, you're getting inventory information, you're getting orders information. How do we align that so we're just not just jumping the gun the whole time and creating even more noise in the system, as I say. So you need to be able to control it. And the elements that you need to look at on a daily basis is understand what your product plan is. This is my product plan. However, I might not get some of those products and I need to prioritize them. What is my sales plan? What is my statistical forecast telling me? What is the demand plan and how are we consuming against that demand plan? What is my inventory requirements? What is my inventory projections? What's my production plan? So I've created a production plan. I've created a material plan so I can bring in materials. What are my supply orders doing? Do I need to adjust any of those supply orders? Either I'm ordering too much stuff coming in, or I'm not producing enough, or I may be producing too much and I've got too much stuff coming up. So then I need to go down to my supply chain scheduling about how I schedule everything to be made and also where to be transported, because it's not just getting it into your warehouse, but it's also how do I schedule my dispatch or my transfer orders that I need to go across that. What is my capacity doing? So how do I do my capacity against all those variabilities above at the top? How do I control my supply chain on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour business with all this information coming through? How do I make S&OP decisions? And then how do I create a collaboration hub that I collaborate with my suppliers and my customers? And how do I view over and under alerts? So as you can see, the supply chain has, become multidimensional, incredibly complex. And trying to do all of this on spreadsheets or on just what I call linear or single dimensional system leads into lots of confusion. So what we do is we work with our customers, and this is just to give you an example of a system where it brings everything together. So what you would do in your dashboard is you would have your plans for the next 18 months. This would be called what we call a PRD. So it'll show your production or your purchasing plan. So this is what you're going to purchase in a value across each of your DCs, DC1, DC2, and DC3, and there's a total. These are your demand plans. So this is what you're actually going to sell across each of those for the next 18 months. And this is what my inventory clothing stock is going to be. And also at December, if that's your year end, or if you want to have it a rolling, and how much obsolete I'm seeing. So if you change any one of those variables in terms of your daily plans, you can see this coming through directly here, and you can have full visibility across this for the 18 months. So you can start making some of those decisions. Also from a commercial side, you can see what that impact happens. This is just an example of your data upload. So it gets uploaded every day. So it's automatically updated. So you can see what it is. You can see that effect that it has on your product. So here's all your products. You can put them into what we call make to order, make to stock 1, or make to stock 2. Make to stock 1 is your very important ones, because what COVID has taught us is that we actually don't make everything all the time. We might decide on our key priority items, we make them. And on make to stock 2, we can actually switch off production or switch off orders with a flick of a switch. So we say, I'm not going to make those for the next 2 months because of how we're prioritizing our business against raw materials or commodity prices, etc. And from this, we can see what delivers everything. So you can see the status of the product. You can see what your minimum order quantity is. You can see what your demand is in units, and you can see what your value is. And you can also sort it by those different values. So this helps you prioritize your product, saying, well, I'm going to prioritize this product here, widget 2, which is going to deliver me 196,000 over, if I go to the end, over widget 1, which is going to deliver me 6,978. So you can see all those values. You can very quickly make those decisions. If you go into your sales bit, this is where you can each sales by customer. So you can see your various different customers. Within this, you can see what your target is, what your forecast is, what your actual is, what your accuracy is, how you're performing with each of those customers. And again, you can see what your forecast and your actuals are. So if a salesperson says, right, I want to make an adjustment, when they make an adjustment to the forecast and they click on that, they will get a pop-up saying, right, what do you want to adjust it by? To put a comment here, is it driven by temperature? Is it driven by COVID? Is it driven by something? So you collect it. But also on that particular product for that particular customer, you get to see the forecast bias performance. So all of a sudden, they can see that performance and make a decision whether they want to operate or not. And again, you can
Jeremy,
see this in yes.
Sorry, have you got the dashboard up?
Yes.
Okay, because we can't see it.
You can't see it, all right?
No.
Right. Let me stop sharing.
Sorry to interrupt you there, but I think it's important that people can see the actual dashboard.
Yes.
Because that's, I mean, there's a lot of value in that.
Okay. Right. Can you see? Right. Let me go back to everything. So you didn't see.
There we go.
You didn't see this dashboard?
No.
Okay. Right. So let me rewind back to everything. So this is the dashboard that we currently have for the ports that I was talking you through. So again, quickly, you can see all the movements across any week about anything, what your performance is across waterside, quayside, stack, stage and gate, truck moves, rail moves, and you can also see your trends over time. So you can really set your trends and start seeing that to take actions. Then from a dashboard point of view, sorry you couldn't see this, but this just shows you your demand, your supply, and your inventory. So you can see this across the next year or 18 months going out. So you can help you drive decisions. Commercial can see what they need to do. From a product point of view, you can see all your importance of products. So you can see each product, how much value, how much demand, and how much value it's going to be driving me for the next 12 months. So it can help you to prioritize your products. From a sales point of view, it shows you by customer. You can see overall your target forecast and actuals, but then also your performance here. So if a salesperson wants to make an adjustment to their forecast by product, they click on this, and then they actually see their forecast bias performance by product, by SKU, and they can put their overlay on, and then they can also put a comment, whether it's temperature or event driven. What is that big event driven? So this all of a sudden gives the commercial people control, because they can see their performance when they're putting something in that, I shouldn't be putting more in if I'm underperforming. I'm not going to go through all the other the other ones because I think we've run out of control, but this just shows you can see your inventory projections. So as something changes on a day-to-day basis, it can actually update your inventory projections, and then you can go down and see it by particular products, etc. So you can see that for the next year. Your supply, this is showing you what's required. So it recalculates what's required on a daily basis. It will also show you what you have on order. So whether you have it as a production order or purchase order, and it can show you what you're outstanding. So this helps you drive decisions. Do I need to make more? Do I need to make less? Do I need to purchase more? Do I need to purchase less on a daily basis? That it's straight away interconnected. And then you have what we call the control. So from a control perspective, it can show you where all your service risks are. Okay, you can see by product, by distribution center, or you can sort by importance, or you can sort by COGS or by units, and this helps you drive decisions. But what's very important when we start getting to operations, and this is where we talk about the rubber hitting the road, is you have a demand plan. So here's your demand plan by every single product, and it will tell you what your plan is for the month. So for instance, this product says 2,820. You've invoiced month to date, open orders one to date, what your accuracy and what your stock availability is. Well, let's have a look where we've got high stock availability or where I've got low or high accuracy. We can see those products. And if you want to understand what's going on with a particular product, you click on that and it says, the problem being is customer A and customer J haven't invoiced or haven't consumed what they said they were going to do. So we can now go and speak to commercial, or we can go and speak to the customer to take action there and then. We don't have to wait till the end of the week or the end of the month to drive that. Similarly, from an inventory point of view, you can see all your inventory happening, what you have on hand, what you have on hold, what you have on order on a daily basis, what your accuracy is, what your demand is. And then again, do I need to start taking action because my month to date, what have I invoiced, what are my current over orders, and this is your stock in your orders. So hopefully you can start seeing, and similar by customer, you can start seeing how you can connect your plans that you set out monthly, how you take them down to weekly, how you can see they're being executed on a daily basis, and how it relates back to the monthly plan, and how I need to go back and take some further action against that. Let me just go back. So that's what we talk about synchronization. All these things, product planning, all the way down to over and under alerts, you can see in one place, and this drives you. So this is what we're saying. We need to start building the processes that allows us to take monthly to weekly to daily, how I can make adjustments, how I can see it, and how I can push it up. The other challenge that we're starting to see is forecasting. And from a forecasting perspective, what we're starting to say is, how do we forecast? Because the forecast says what happened in the past is likely to happen in the future. But we know we've been through a huge amount of what we call COVID and upliftments, and it's changed. So when we start looking at the sales history, what we start seeing is that this sales history, can we rely on the sales history to predict the future? And what we're finding in a lot of businesses looking at sales history is driving huge errors inside the businesses. So just an example that we worked with a customer is to say, let's have a look at this particular example that I'll use here. So what we say is the first thing is we need to fix the data, because if your data is giving us noise, then it's going to drive a lot of issues within the system itself. So this particular product you can see here is over a COVID period where there's been a huge amount of volatility that's happened. And if we run what we call the normal statistical algorithms, so these statistical algorithms are actually auto-train themselves. So they pull everything apart and then they train themselves to try and work out what is the trend, what is the forecast, and how am I performing. Here you can see various different forecasts. So you've got a linear forecast, you've got an exponential and exponential smoothing, and then we have an autofit. And as you can see, this autofit is going absolutely crazy because it's reading a lot of this noise that comes into it. So what we have in functionality points of view, I won't go through this, modern tools now have COVID functionality. So if we say COVID functionality, it looks for where those things are. So it'll show you, right, I'm going to calculate this, excluding the COVID functionality based off the last history, and then I'll run my forecast, and now you can see how well these automatic tools perform. So that's what's really important, that we don't just carry on forecasting based off past history. We need to really make sure that we have the data in place, and then we can select the right curve that we want to operate using some of these modern technology tools, and also processes that we talk about. So hopefully, now that you've seen some of these ways of working, I want to leave you with 4 things. So our new supply chains need to be what I call supply chain synchronization. It becomes multidimensional planning and control. Months, weeks, and days, we need to do it. And in order to do that, coming back to the old thing of process, people, and technology, what we say is our processes need to change. The processes that have been in place, like SNOP and IBP, which have been around for 40 years, are no longer good enough. We need to take the next step and move to synchronization. Synchronizing your product, your sales, your inventory, your supply, and your daily control. Suddenly, you need to have visibility of your performance, your trends, your assumptions, and your decisions on a daily basis so you can make those choices, but also the speed of decisions. The speed of decisions is critical. You can't wait a long time. And therefore, the speed of implementations, the speed of automations, and decisions are critical. So to give you an example, some of these tools that I shared with you, on average, take between 4 and 6 weeks to implement, provided that you've got the master data is clean. What we generally find is, even though it takes 4 to 6 weeks to implement, it actually takes us about 8 weeks to clean your master data because of making sure that is all right. And then the biggest arrow here, as you can see, is the capabilities, where we need to be setting up people's roles, be very clear about the organizational setup. What is your role? What is your accountability? And also build understanding to work to one plan. It's very difficult for people to have the capabilities to be able to work to one plan. And that's what we also need to build, those understanding on how they work to one plan. So hopefully that was informative. I don't know if there's any questions.
Thank you, Jeremy. Everybody's very quiet now. Are there any questions that anybody wants to pop into the Q&A tab for Jeremy? So there's nothing coming through there. I see lots of hands and thumbs up here. Jeremy, are you available at the next break at about 1:15? Just to pop into the tables, or are you unavailable at that time?
Yeah, unfortunately, I've got a meeting. I didn't know I needed to be available.
No,
see if I can try and connect it. Okay.
Okay. So otherwise, I mean, if you can pop in, if anybody's got any questions, I mean, I've experienced the dashboard for myself, and the things that it's done, it's able to show to really start combating real problems and make real differences. It's unbelievable. So if anybody's interested and wants to learn more, if Jeremy's not available in the table, you can definitely reach out to us. Jeremy, maybe you want to just drop your details in the chat line quickly so people can get in touch with you. So Jeremy, thank you for your time. Thank you for your insight into this. I think it's a real, I mean, with COVID and everything else, it's changed the way we do things forever. And we really need to make sure that we're adopting the change that's going to serve the needs of our supply chains. So thank you. And can I just have a show of hands here from the audience? Applause for, thank you everybody for Jeremy's presentation. So thank you, Jeremy, for your time, and we will catch up with you again soon.
Okay, great. Thank you. Speak to you soon.
Thank you, Jeremy.